So listen to this. People suffer from all sorts of syndromes. I used to suffer from R&P syndrome. And in an investment world, R&P syndrome is very common, especially among educated folks. I will go as far as to say that I have a hard time finding investors that do not have R&P syndrome. You're probably wondering, what in the world is R&P syndrome? It is revenue and profitability syndrome. I cannot tell you how many people missed 1,000% gains on Aduro Clean Technologies because of revenue and profitability syndrome. Look at Oklo Inc. The stock went from $5 per share to $150 per share in 12 months. That's turning $10,000 into $300,000. AST SpaceMobile stock went from $2 to $80. That's turning $10,000 into $400,000. These are life-changing returns. No revenue inside, no profitability inside. And if you suffered from R&P syndrome, you didn't buy these stocks. They didn't have any revenues. They were not profitable. They were too risky. They were overvalued. They were not worth anything. They were just pump and dumps. Investors were insane. We were in a bubble, right? Some time ago, I sent my Aduro Clean Technologies video to a YouTuber. The stock was much lower to where it is today. Did he respond? Nope. Last week, I sent him an email. I said, can I pay you to provide an independent analysis on Aduro Clean Technologies, consulting work, independent analysis, so that Aduro shareholders can hear a different opinion other than just me? He said, nope, I don't do paid videos. I said, okay, then do it for free. If I tell you to look at Aduro, you won't look at it. If I say I will pay you to look at it, you say you don't do paid videos or paid work. So what can I possibly do to get your attention on Aduro? You know what he said? I will not look at it. It is not my investment style. I prefer only invest in profitable companies. R&P syndrome, severe case of R&P syndrome. Look, I'm a millionaire. But I wouldn't be one if I still suffered from R&P syndrome. I mean, it would be pretty hard to turn $10,000 into $7 million by investing in safe, profitable, revenue-generating companies, don't you think? Looking back, the most money I ever made was on stocks that didn't have any revenues. And actually, the most amount of money I lost was on stocks with revenues. I made my first million on Oroco Resource Corp. In 2017, I noticed that the CEO was buying millions of shares in this company. I needed to investigate why. At that time, the market cap was only $3 million, but they were in a legal battle over a property that was worth $1 billion. So no revenues, no profits, perfect environment for R&P syndrome. While the people with R&P syndrome refused to look at it, I started buying legal documents directly from the courthouse where the lawsuit was taking place. And I'm not a lawyer, but these documents gave me 100% confidence that Oroco was going to win the lawsuit and get control over the $1 billion asset. Considering that the market cap was only $3 million, I put $70,000 into it, and eventually this $70,000 turned into $7 million. Then came Aduro Clean Technologies. This was in the middle of 2022. You would have thought that after making 100x on a no revenue and no profits investment, I would not have any R&P syndrome. You would be wrong. I actually had a severe case of R&P syndrome. My friend told me about Aduro Clean Technologies. I refused to look at it for 4 weeks. I didn't want to look at it. I told him, listen, I do not invest in companies with no revenues. Thank God that he was determined and kept sending me stuff about Aduro Clean Technologies. Then finally one weekend, I had nothing to do and decided to research Aduro. I was completely blown away by the problem that they were solving, and I was blown away by the solution that they had. In the end, I ended up visiting the facility, meeting the management, and I bought 1% of the company. I put $500,000 into it, and now this position is worth $5 million. And I am convinced that this position is going to be worth between $50 and $100 million for me. Assuming, of course, I will hold all the shares until this materializes. There are hundreds of ways to make money in the markets. When you only invest in companies that have revenues and profits, you miss out on a lot of opportunities to make money. And yes, you are less likely to have huge losers, but you will also not have big winners. You see, why do companies go public? Why do companies take on investors? Well, if you open up an ice cream shop, you can probably do it on your own without taking on any investors. However, companies go public, companies take on investors because they need capital. This capital enables them to grow, to build assets that can then be useful for society and eventually can generate revenues and profits. So companies are like humans. They have a development cycle. During the early days, they need support. They cannot function on their own. They need investors to feed them with capital. Then, when they grow up successfully, they can become sufficient and revenue generating. So without the early investors, there would be no revenues. There would be no profits. You think that revenues and profits are just written by the accountants on the income statement? Revenues and profits are the result of value being generated for somebody else willing to pay for it. Then people with R&P syndrome can get horny and invest in those companies. But the biggest money has already been made. But, isn't it risky to invest in companies with no revenues? Well, if you're lazy, then it is. I mean, in general it is. But in certain circumstances, you can lower the risk significantly. In some cases, it can be less risky to invest in no revenue companies than it is to invest in revenue generating companies. Let's return back to Oroco Resource Corp. I told you before that the market cap was $3 million. They were in a legal battle over a $1 billion asset. I bought the legal documents directly from the courthouse. So I knew they were gonna win. I saw it in the legal documents. The market was clueless. No revenues, no profits. Was it risky? Exactly. Now, this took a lot of work. This took a lot of research. Something unknown to investors with R&P syndrome. They don't want to do any research. Until they see revenues, they are not even going to look. This is no different with Aduro Clean Technologies. Today, the market cap is $500 million. Barely any revenues, but hugely cheap. Have you ever seen a company with a solution to a $1 trillion problem with such a low valuation? I haven't. However, 10x ago, the market cap was only $50 million. And people with R&P syndrome didn't want to look at it. It was too expensive, it was too risky, pre-revenue company, and now they were the ones that missed out. I made my $5 million simply because I cured myself from R&P syndrome. If you suffer from R&P syndrome, it is unlikely that you will heal from it. Usually, R&P syndrome comes with extreme stubbornness. I mean, you could heal. You could study Aduro Clean Technologies. You could study how it will change the world of plastic recycling. You could look for clues from many multi-billion-dollar companies currently engaging with Aduro on how they are going to commercialize this technology, and as a result, make the current valuation a complete joke. The clues are everywhere. And to me, it's obvious that Aduro is likely going to be 10x to 100x from the current levels. But you won't study Aduro. You need revenues and profits. You know what they say, healing from R&P syndrome is harder than healing stupidity. It's true. I just made it up. Anyway, when those beloved revenues and profits do come, I will sell you my shares and walk away with $100 million. Anyway, I hope you heal from R&P syndrome, but I don't think this is possible.